It's Thursday, February 9th, 2023, and this is the Council of Facilities and Finance Committee meeting. And please state your name and position starting to my left.
Bob Hickey, School Board.
Joe Hidalgo, School Board.
Michael Roosevelt, School Board.
Ed Zelman, School Board.
Matt Featherston, IT Director.
Jessica Benda, Supervisor of Facilities.
Andy Sanko, Superintendent.
Bob Reinhardt, Interim Business Administrator.
Mary McKee, School Board.
Ed Tate, School Board.
And I'm Hilda Pali, School Board. We have facilities items and finance items of the agenda. And there are more items on the facilities than on the finance. So I think we're going to start with the ABM survey results and contract extension proposal. And Jess, you're on.
Okay. Agenda, that's exactly what you guys have on your paper. So we'll start with the ABM survey results and contract extension. So we did receive results from the principals. Overall, the results were positive. There were 3 schools that did have a few issues, and that is Richboro Elementary. I'm sorry, 2 schools, Richboro Elementary and Newtown Middle. So based on the experience of the school, did the staff contact you, the quality of the work? 15% did, and 85% did not. They did leave comments, and we reviewed all of these comments with ABM. And then overall, we did have the second one right here. We did have, has staff contacted you regarding the quality of it? 31% did, and 69% did not. And in your opinion, which is the one down here, have they made improvements since the last school year? 69% have said that they have made improvements over the last school year. And then the bottom right is, please rate the cleanliness and your satisfaction for ABM's custodial services. You can see that we have 3 schools gave them a 5, which is the highest score. 5 schools gave them a 4, 3 gave them a 3, and 2 gave them a 2. Again, those 2 were Richboro Elementary and Newtown Middle. So to go over I met with Charlie, who is our account manager, and Bernie, who is our senior district manager, to review these results. They were actually very happy with getting this survey completed because they were getting feedback from us. So we are going to continue this survey in September, January, and June each year and review these results so they know where to make improvements. Richboro Elementary, we did replace the lead person, the daytime lead, for another person. And so today's Thursday, so within the first 3 days, there has been drastic improvement. I actually talked to the principal yesterday late afternoon, and she was over the moon happy with what was going on in her school. So they did take the feedback and make improvements. And then Newtown Middle, the struggle was that Charlie, who again is our account manager, he works during the day. His nighttime supervisors, there was an open position there. So he has since filled that position, and they are focusing on making sure that the nighttime people are trained properly and doing what they need. And as of right now, they are fully staffed. So they had about 4 openings. So now we're fully staffed and we're making improvements. So we continue to monitor both of these schools, as well as the other ones, but make sure that there was actual improvement here. So we would like to recommend that we extend ABM's contract for 2 years. So the extension would be for the contract period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th of 2025. And I have both costs for each year listed. Our current cost is $3,599,000. So there is a jump for next year and then a jump for the following year. Both of these values are listed in their contract that we agreed to last year. I do want to highlight that there is a significant jump because the current year is only 10 months.
That's very helpful. It's about a 4% increase between 23, 24, and 24, 25. And when you look at where everything is going, 4% seems fairly reasonable. The big jump, I think, from the year before, because you had 2 months in there, was at a non-bargain unit issue, and then it went to a bargain unit issue. So I believe that's one of the reasons why it jumped probably higher than we would have liked it, but it was when they organized as a bargain unit.
Are there any questions?
What was the jump between 21, 22 to 23?
You know, I don't have,
If we factor in the increase for the bargaining, they've been in place for, what, 10 months or so?
what happened is last year, they worked on their old contract for 2 months, and then they went into the new period of time. Don't have those numbers. We had them back when we negotiated all this. I just don't have them with me. I wasn't prepared for that. But back in June, when I was here, we were working on it. We had those numbers. I just don't have them.
Because I'm assuming that the 2324 number up there is a bump from what it is now.
Yes, it
I
is.
just want to understand what that is. I understand you're saying it's 4% between those two up
Yes.
there. But what is it before?
Can I get back to you on that?
Yep.
Because I don't have that information here, and I'm just not comfortable guessing.
But this was in their contract, right? This number, the 2324?
Yes.
It's in the contract that we approved
Yes,
last time.
yes. And they have also confirmed that they continue to agree to hold those numbers as well. So they will not be coming back to us next year to say, hey, we need more money. So they have confirmed in writing that they're holding both prices.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yeah, just a couple questions, and you probably don't have the answer to this. What is the average employee making? Because that was a point of contention when we were negotiating the contracts some time ago, and I'm sure, Bob, I feel bad because I should have asked you that before the meeting, so if you don't have it, then those will get back to me.
Yeah, I don't have any detailed information. I didn't really prepare, and I probably should have prepared for
No,
it.
that's fine, because when this all started, the conversation was, if we just give more, we just give a little bit more, the quality's gonna be better, the quality's gonna be better, so I'm happy to hear that the buildings are looking nicer. We toured Hillcrest last Thursday for Nights for Knowledge, and I was really happy to see the quality. Obviously, I'm in Holland a lot. The buildings look good. They weren't clean before, so I'm happy to hear that. So what happens at the end of this? Do we RFP it? Can we continue this conversation with them? What is the formality there?
At the end of the 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that,
That would be up to the board if we want to go to RFP or if we want to continue, if they would be interested in continuing. One of the things we've spoken about, seeing the rate of hourly increase over the recent months in other districts surrounding us that custodial services are bringing, we do have some pause in going to RFP right now because we're not sure we'll be able to come in at these numbers. In fact, we're pretty confident we won't.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the other issue about the hourly rate was vacancies, filling. Yeah. And so now if they're fully staffed, I think that's another answer to the question, quality and staffing levels.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that the issues at Richboro Elementary and Newtown Middle have been resolved, but you also mentioned there were 3 other schools that gave them low numbers. So it's that we've got a dialogue going on and that ABM has made efforts to fix these. I'm hoping that that's just not at the bottom, that it's consistent throughout all. And are we going to somehow continue this level of survey and feedback from the schools?
Absolutely, absolutely. So our through conversations with ABM, we are going to do it every September, so to make sure that summer cleaning is done every January to see pretty much halfway through the school year, where are we at, and then in June to do the rest of the final half of the school year, to make sure that everything that I'm seeing and everything that the schools are seeing match up, and that feedback gets sent back to ABM.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough that they really did like this feedback and getting the comments. Because, I mean, if you don't get feedback from the customer, you don't really know where you stand, and having that open dialogue definitely helps. We also have quarterly meetings with ABM so that they're checking in quarterly to make sure that where's their staffing at, a formal meeting with executives there. Now, Charlie, who is our account manager, I'm talking to him once or twice a week at the very minimum. If there's anything that pops up, quick phone call, he picks up the phone all the time. He's been phenomenal with us. So it's really been a positive
See,
experience.
Justin, that's a great point, because I think that's what was missing when we talked about this a couple of years ago. When we hire outside the district, I envision partnerships.
Yes.
You know, in the beginning of the year with Durham, we were getting pounded with issues, and they were there doing due diligence, working with our team. It's great to hear that this relationship, and I guess since you've been here, you're fostering a stronger relationship, if you will, or as good. That's what it's about. You know, we can't fix it, we don't know about it. When we know about it, what are we going to do? What's the solution?
Yes.
Because we've got the employees, whether they wear an ABM or another uniform, that's what you're going to get if you go to another company. So let's keep everybody happy and working together. I mean, that's all I ever wanted out of this relationship, and I didn't feel that we were getting that.
Yeah, no, I feel that we are absolutely getting that with the staff that they have here now. And, you know, there's been a couple issues that have popped up outside of this survey, for instance, Hillcrest. Charlie and I walked the school, they made, next to immediate response to improve what was going on. They even took some ownership that probably wasn't theirs, just to help us out and get things cleaned and moving for the school. Yep.
So we are gonna, this will come to the board at the next meeting to vote.
Yep. And what would you answers to these couple questions that you guys have?
Okay. All right, can we move to the playground improvements?
Playground improvements. So the last meeting, you guys asked for a recommendation from us regarding the playgrounds. Our recommendation is to complete all playgrounds in 2 fiscal years. What that means is that we would begin the design process this month with a design RFP out to potential design firms. Get the RFPs back and have a award in April or May. And that would mean that phase 1 construction would happen September of 2024, and phase 2 construction would happen in spring and summer of 2025. The first phase would be 3 schools, and the second phase would be 4 schools. That means that we would have all schools, because remember, three of the elementary schools are included in construction, Richboro, Hillcrest, and Sulphine-Stone. So at the end of the summer of 2025, we would have new playgrounds at all 10 schools. And then the total project cost is still anticipated to be about $2 million. So we would take, over the course of 4 years, we had $500,000 each, so we compressed that to be about $2 million.
Questions?
I have a question. So, I don't see the details, but you're saying basically at the end of this, you guys are going to have new playgrounds throughout the school district. You're able to do that. And I'm thinking with the bulk purchases we're doing, we're probably going to be able to get a really good deal on the actual items, the products, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully.
Yes, that's would be our goal.
Okay.
Because we would package this together, so like phase 1 with the 3 schools would be packaged together as one project. So when we bid it out, we would have one GC.
So when you went out and did your surveys, it seems like this was the best result, to just go ahead and get everything.
Yes, so during our survey, we didn't find anything that was of imminent hazards. The maintenance team has corrected anything that was found in that survey, and then also they're doing general surveys, throughout their weeks and days there. So if anything pops up, they're taking care of it immediately. I think overall, the playgrounds are in half decent shape. I mean, we all know that there's plenty of equipment that's broken that hasn't been repaired over time, equipment that you can't get pieces for anymore. There are some pieces that are caution taped off because they're a hazard, but they're not, an immediate hazard where someone's going to lose a limb or something on it. But overall, I think we do need some refresher. If you look at some of the other playgrounds, or not district playgrounds, but playgrounds around the district, play has changed over the last at least 20 years. Some of our equipment now is probably older than that. It's evolved, and so I think we need to come up with
And
some
you did
new.
visit all of them, right?
We went to all of them, yes. Yep.
So, yeah, I want to commend Jess on that. I know that was mentioned at the last meeting about us. We spent a lot of time talking about a playground study. Our viewpoint is that was a tool, one of the tools for this recommendation. But Jess Binda, along with Nicole Crawford and myself, we visited each of the 10 elementary schools. And we all got on, not every piece of equipment, but many pieces of equipment to put our eyes and feet and hands on them as well. So thanks, Jess, for doing that.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr.
I was going to point that out. I think that's really commendable that you all took the time to do that. And I have a question. Do we telescope this from 4 years to 2 or from 3 years to 2? 3 to
I thought it was
2?
4 to 2.
4 to 2.
Yeah, because we had $500,000 allocated for 4 years. For 4 years.
For 4 years, $500,000 each of the 4 years. We worked with Bob to consolidate it and reduce it to 2 for reasons that we heard from the community, but also trying to capitalize on, we may have some better buying power if we do, 2-phase rather than 4-phase purchase of equipment.
That's great.
So I was just going to comment. I feel bad not neglecting. I know Mike was part of some of the conversation. After hearing the board, seeing emails, a couple things I talked to Dr. Sango and Mr. Reinhardt about was, how can we simplify the process? Can we simplify the process? I hate the fact that someone's going to go last, but someone's going to go last. The fact that our team put their eyes on it was important. And then Bob went to work and tried to find a way of simplifying this process into a 2-year push, which we're fortunate to have the money. But more importantly, that's Bob crunching the numbers. And I think that if he said he couldn't do it, we all know Bob Reinhardt by now, you're not going to get it done. So my conversations were, how can we get this done in a more quicker way? Can we efficiently do it? Can we finance it the right way? Because I think, although you're last, you're 2 years last as opposed to 3, 3.5, 4, whatever we'd end up being. That's a perfect guess. So my comment was going to be, Bob, I really appreciated the conversation, Dr. Sanko as well, because we hear the community. And if we can do it, we try to do it. So thank you for getting the work done on this.
Any other questions, comments?
Was the first year was supposed to be this summer or next summer?
Next time.
So it was always starting in
Yeah.
the summer of 2024
So the lead time, unfortunately,
for the equipment.
for the equipment, we've missed.
We missed that window the last.
Yeah, absolutely.
And are we still following the same schedule that you presented the last time? We're just moving the other ones up? Like as far as,
Which schools are not year 1 and which
Correct.
schools are year 2?
or is that not decided?
It's not decided yet. So we are still going to keep Newtown Elementary because of the multiple disability students as in phase 1. But with the help of the design professional and with the input of board, we will select the 3 schools and move forward with those 3 schools. We also have to look at what makes sense to go. So like Newtown Elementary is going to have like ramps to get up. So the construction duration is going to be longer than a school that doesn't need that level of accessibility. But I do want to emphasize that we will have accessible equipment at all schools, no matter what, because there was a lot of feedback that I received that community members may not go to that school, but they still want to have accessible equipment at that school. So if you have a 3 or 4-year-old that needs that kind of equipment, they still would like to go and play with their older siblings. So, you know, having those communication boards is going to be key. Also having lower, boards and games and stuff that kids can access is going to be very important. And then also making sure that we have equipment that they can play on as well.
And when we talked about that, I appreciated you said that you're going to use architects that specialize in
Yes.
playground design.
Yes,
So that's very important.
yes.
The other thing I just would like Jess to repeat, she said earlier, 2 fiscal years. Can you elaborate on that a little bit so our community understands what that means?
Yes, so what that means is, so like the first phase is going to be September of 2024. Because when I say 2 years, it's not going to be complete from 2 years from today. It's going to be completed over 2 fiscal years. And again, to emphasize what we just talked about, the lead time of equipment. So construction for the first phase is going to be summer of 2024, and construction of phase 2 is going to be spring, summer of 2025. So it will be complete over 2 fiscal years. So we will have to maintain the existing equipment through, like, what is it, almost 14, 15 months until we can actually get to the construction portion. Just lead time and just trying to get this materials, it's every year it's something different, but we know that we're still having issues with lead time of equipment in this area.
Any more questions? All right, can we move on to the capital improvement projects?
So last meeting, we approved the stadium repairs, paving and concrete repairs, the south tennis and basketball court replacement, and then also the south auditorium lighting to move forward. We are going to continue to use Dewey. We have their agreements based on their professional services and summer projects agreement that we've utilized in the past years. And the cost of each of these includes design and construction management fees. So the stadium will be, now again, this slide's based on the construction cost. So if the costs come in under the estimate, then we pay less. If it comes over the estimate, then we pay more. So there is a sliding fee here. Again, and it's all per the professional services and summer projects agreement that we have with Dewey. So the stadium will be $33,784. The paving and concrete repairs will be $86,170. The south tennis and basketball court replacement will be $109,148. And then south auditorium lighting upgrades amendment, it will be amendment because we do have an agreement. At the end of both of the contracts together, it'll be roughly $148,500. Again, this is based on the agreed upon schedule that we had before the sliding schedule.
Question?
So we'll be voting at the next board meeting on Dewey agreement for these projects.
Yeah, to authorize us to move forward with spending this money.
And then that'll move us forward to the bidding phase.
Correct, we'll go through the
And
design.
then we will approve each one of these projects when we have bids to look at.
Yes, exactly.
Ms. McKee?
Thank you. We already approved Johnson Controls. That was our last conversation.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I didn't jot down the numbers that you just gave.
Mm-hmm.
But when we discussed this last time and it included Johnson Controls, it came in somewhere around 8 million. Are we still in that neighborhood?
Yes, so we're still right in that neighborhood. I'm not going to adjust that $8 million until we get closer to construction and get actual estimates. Mm-hmm. But we're still holding right around that $8 million. Thank you. Absolutely.
And we're asking Dewey to modify the plan for the south auditorium.
Yes.
try to reduce the price tag.
The understanding was we are not going to be able to reduce the price tag because in order to reduce the price tag, we would have to significantly reduce the scope of work.
Okay.
And the items that are in the scope of work, which is house lighting, stage lighting, dimmer racks, that's all needed at the school.
Good enough.
So
Okay.
what's the word I'm looking for? The item that you guys approved at the last meeting included that $2.some million
Right.
for that scope of work.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other?
Jess, what's the life expectancy on that improvement itself?
It's not, I mean, technology improves. I would think that we'd be able to have it for another at least 15 years, but, I mean, 15 years ago, we were just coming out with cell phones, or with the iPhone.
Yeah, but I guess maybe my other question should be, is the bulk of the work being done something that can be improved upon? Or are we going to be at the table looking at the newest technology in 15 years?
I think it's, I mean, you probably can talk more
So
about
they're
but
converting the lights to LED,
Okay.
which goes a long way for
Sure.
longevity.
Right.
My guess is in 15 years they'll have a completely different type of bulb, but because we're converting to LED, the migration will be much easier than going from the screw-in bulbs to the LED.
And that's kind of what I was like, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also a fair amount of switchgear that's going in.
Right, so the
Also-
lighting controls that are in our electronic lighting controls, those they upgrade every probably, we see significant upgrades about every 3 years, but minor upgrades every year. But once the infrastructure is in place,
Right.
it's minor. We may have to replace the controllers in 7 years, but that's a very small piece. That's not going to be $2 million worth of equipment. So,
Good. Summer 22 credit change orders?
yes, so, oops, I'm going the wrong way here. So change orders. These are all credit change orders from summer 2022 projects. These are all unused allowance amounts. If you guys would like me to go through each one, the total credit is going to be $113,352.97. For those writing it down, it's 113,352.97.
Good news.
Absolutely. Credits are better than ads.
So we don't have to approve anything on that, right? You're just
All you
saying-
will approve is the deduct, so I can close out the projects. So I'll have one item for you to approve with each one listed, but the total amount will be that $113,000.
Was there any one of them that was an aberration, say, like you have 113,000, all of them might have been like right on, and one of them's $100,000, is there?
No, so I think the biggest one is the South Terrazzo repairs, which is $50,000. They didn't use any of the allowance on that project. The North Canopy concrete repairs is $18,000. It's nothing,
Yeah, no, I was just looking for, was there one that stuck
no,
out?
there's nothing that sticks out, and the other ones are $3 a piece. No, they're all pretty right in line. Okay?
Any questions?
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Rock star.
So
Okay.
finally, the Revolution Recovery contract?
Yes, Revolution Recovery Contract Amendment. So right now, we have part of the lead project, part of the lead portion of the Hillcrest project. The district handles all of the disposal of construction debris, and that's so that we have control over the measurement and verification for lead points. At Hillcrest, we have about 2 more dumpsters that we need to take care of. So we need to increase their current contract for $2,000.
Questions? Can we move on to the finance portion? Bob, you're
Tom?
on.
Oh, thank you.
For the last time?
Thank you, Jess.
2023 capital projects finance plan.
I'll stay.
It's your
Last
last
time
meeting.
here.
Although he did whisper
I'm
to
pretty
me,
certain of it this time.
after you asked questions, he said, I guess I have to come back.
Yeah.
No, not here. Just come back to the office. I've learned a lot since last time I was here, and specifically about the 2023 capital projects financing plan. When I first started here, I came in like September to show you how we would finance Richboro Elementary School, and said that I believe we can do it. Then as I went on, and I remember Mr. Hidalgo came to me and he said, hey, right here on Doug's report, it says that the CIP is going to be funded by bond funds. Remember you said that? And I said, I don't know anything where that came from or anything like that. And there's some other things. Someone talked to me about something going on with the NBIT. I knew nothing about the NBIT. Well, since that time, I've learned things. So some things are going to change, and I'm going to explain things to you. And I got to give Cheryl quite a bit of credit here. Pass them around. I'm just going to go over a few numbers in here. This is PFM's work. Yeah, that's also, there's also a handout of my slides, because I'd like you guys to be able to write notes on it, because this is going to be the second time I'm going over things, and they're going to look familiar, and you can just keep building your knowledge about everything. But Cheryl and I, we sit down every now and then, and she tells me everything she knows, and I tell her everything I know, and we both looked at it and said, oh, we need to get a bond issue moving, because we're going to need proceeds. And I said, well, this is what I've done and all that. She says, you know what? I remember a cash flow statement from 2021 that helped us do the last bond issue. I said, can you share that with me? I'd really love it. And this is what I found as we went through it. Well, let's go over this first. This is the same slide I showed you before about why we finance the way we finance. Fund balance for big projects you really can't use. Smaller projects, bank financing under $5 million, low or no issuance cost, and you have higher interest rates because you're not in the tax-exempt market. We're not looking at any of that stuff. A bond issue finance, that should be $5 million. What happened last time I did this to you, you can go look, it said 45 million. And why it said 45 million? Because I messed up, because if you see over the 4 is where the dollar sign is. And I didn't hit the up the shift, and it showed 45. That should really say above $5 million. There's issue. There are, you know, my secret here.
Yeah, there was.
There are issuance costs for bond financing, but you're in the tax exempt marketplace, so you get overall lower rates. And then funds available in the capital reserve, we moved $22.5 million in the capital reserve. That's huge. And before I was telling you about things we could do with the capital reserve, my plans have changed, and you're going to hear why they have changed and where I think we should be. So here we go. Okay. I obtained the cash flow statements from 2021. And what appeared to me was that inside the financings of our last bond issue was the Star Center, that's now completed. Rolling Hills Elementary, that's completed. Soul Finestone, it's not completed, so that's ongoing. Hillcrest Elementary, I have that down that it's completed. I have some money in it. I think it might be retainage and things like that that we have to pay out, but the project's basically completed. Richboro, we know about that. Turf Field is basically completed. But included in this spreadsheet was Doug's projects, just as Joe had talked about. So that was news to me. When I said, I don't know where that came from, now I know where it came from. I still believe that the CIP, as we call it here, the summer projects, would be best paid of capital reserve funds. Many of the projects are shorter term than building a building and things like that. We are borrowing money for 30 years, and I think that money should be spent on the bigger projects. So I just don't believe we should do it that way. And now we do have $22.5 million to continue those things without going towards bond issues. Do you guys understand why I say that? It's the duration of the bond issue as opposed to how we're funding it. What it also tells me is we better keep having money supplied into the capital reserve fund, because if we're starting to go to bond issues for the CIP, that concerns me, and I don't know that we should be funding these smaller projects in that way unless we have to, okay? The MBIT capital contribution. That was news to me, and I'm trying to figure out what this new liability is that we have on our books that we need. And I found out that there was a capital feasibility study, I recall, by the VOTEC, and we came to a capital agreement, all 4 districts, and for the next 5 years, we have a commitment to pay them X amount of dollars for their summer projects. Again, that was included in the bond issue. Again, I don't agree that those projects, it's refacing stone and stuff like that. I just don't think that that should be out of the bond fund. So you're going to see what my plan is and what I'm planning on doing now. So adjustments to the plan in my scope and what you're seeing today is the CIP and the MBIT capital contributions are going to be paid out of the $22.5 million. Okay? And we're going to continue using the $22.5 million, and hopefully we keep sustaining it, but that's going to keep us going for 3 or 4 years anyway. But, we should still be putting money in the capital reserve, because the $3 million we used to use, when you guys are all looking at these and saying, this project needs to be done, that's been delayed too long, this has been delayed. We're not, $3 million isn't the number anymore, so we need to realize that and decide what we want to do and how we want to fund it. You should resist going with projects like that and going to bond issues. I just don't think you should have these shorter-term projects. I will tell you, the coating of the stadium, they did that when I was here. So, I mean, it hasn't been that long, and those type of things shouldn't be in a bond issue, I don't believe. At least it's not a strong financial position if you're still paying out liabilities in 30 years and you're going to repaint it again. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Remaining projects include, in the finance plan, Soul Firestone, Richboro Elementary School. Okay? So what I've done, and I've done like the $1.3 million for, what's the other school? Hillcrest? Hillcrest just got finished. So I put a little money in there for that, and I probably should have reflected it that way. So when you look at it, let's go, and I'm going to show you exactly where this financing plan is. Let's go to your the PFM presentation. And I'm going to go back to things, but I'd like you to go to, it doesn't have a page number, but you'll see Council Rock School District estimated summary of construction draws. You see that? Okay. You're going to see our beginning balances as of 1/1/23. You see that as $6,980,000. And I need to tell you that we had a lot of money tied up in the construction escrow accounts. So of our assets, when I came, there was probably like $12 million of assets, and I found that there was 10.6 of them were tied up in construction escrow accounts. Jess and I, last week or the week before?
I think last week.
Okay, last week, we met with Northampton Township officials, and we met with our design team members. And I can tell you that today, the money's released, $8 million of it has been released, so now we have it and it's available for us to use. So the the 10.6 is now down to 2.6. And it's based on current projects, it's based on drawdowns where it's no longer being held. So the money is in our accounts where we can use it and everything, so that's a good thing, and I really wanted to make sure that happened before this meeting tonight, so I don't look at this bond issue thing being tied up with escrow accounts, we have it squared away.
So it has happened, and is
Pardon?
that all? It has happened,
Yes.
and it's all Northampton?
No,
No,
it's Upper
Northampton and Upper Main.
And Upper Make, yeah.
So we did get a reduction,
1.2.
we did
Yes.
get a reduction for Upper Makefield because that's tied to Soul 5
Right.
So they did approve a reduction, so we're working on the paperwork to finalize that. And then we have, who's the third township? Newtown
Newtown,
Township, that we are working to get all this paperwork done, but we wanted to focus on the highest dollar value first, so we'll be back to let you guys know.
We are in much better shape. Jess will stay on it when it needs to be. I will tell you, the meeting was very simple, it seemed. It seemed like all the work was done. It was just, we needed to meet with people to say, when are you going to get this done? And then it started to move quickly. It was really amazing to me. I thought we were going to have, butting heads, and we had none. So the township was very cooperative, and it's all done. So, okay, I wanted to say that. Now, you'll see the beginning balances here, and moving forward, you will then see I'm using they moved mine up, 1.5% interest rate. We are probably getting a 4.5% interest rate right now, but we're using 1.5. Remember, we used to use 0.1?
Yeah.
So that's where we've been. Then you'll see the projects across the top, estimated construction draws, Soul Finestone, Hillcrest, and Richboro Elementary School. And they're just estimated draws based on the duration of the project. You'll see when I think construction's going to start, expenditures go up real high, and you're going to see the duration of the things. And you'll see at the bottom of the schedule, you'll see Soul Finestone, I believe there's almost $7 million left to be paid, 1.3 with Hillcrest Elementary, and then we're using $35 million right now for Richboro Elementary School. That could be right, it could be wrong, but that's what we used. Okay?
I'm sorry, what'd you say for Soul Finestone?
Soul Finestone is $35 million. It's at the very bottom of the column there.
13 is Soul Finestone.
Left.
1.3. Soul Finestone Street.
Oh, yeah, but you said 35, you told him 35.
For Richboro.
He asked for Soul Finestone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Soul Findestone's 13.6, I'm sorry.
Yeah, got it.
Yep, I apologize.
No.
Now what you're going to see is in column 8, you will see that this current year, we'd like to go out for a bond issue, $23 million bond issue. And then in 24, we're going to go out, it's like, this is including issuance costs, so it's about a $19.7 million bond issue. And we will have these projects paid off. So it's 2 more years of borrowing, this year and the next year, okay? There's no feeling like we should use any of the $22.5 million to fund any of this stuff because we have our hands full with where we are now with that. And I don't believe we should be putting money in here. And think about this. There's a lot of this, I'm going to simplify this, but everyone has heard of arbitrage rebate,
yeah.
Where if we're borrowing at one rate and we're investing at a higher rate, and we don't meet some of these standards, the spend down standards and everything else, the IRS is going to make us pay the arbitrage, which is the difference between the borrowing rate and the rate we're earning on our funds. So if I say we're earning 4.5 right now and we're borrowed at 3.5, we're going to have to pay that 1% back to the IRS. By doing what we're doing, we're keeping it in capital reserve. There's no arbitrage with the capital reserve, so why should we do that and get that any complexities in there? I will tell you, we're going to meet the spend down, so I don't believe that's going to happen anyway, but it keeps that from the results anyway, or keeps that out. You have to spend 85% within 3 years of the proceeds, and as long as you do that, and we'll do that the way these spend downs are. So we're okay, but it's another reason why I think we should keep them separate, and I shouldn't be telling you guys, oh, don't borrow money, when we should have to still borrow with everything going on in the capital reserve. You guys understand that? And so, okay. So I wanted to show you that. I also wanted to show you, if you go all the way back to page 2, I guess it is, and you can see all these graphs. The most important graph I want you to look at is the one in the middle that says spot analysis 10-year MMD. And I was amazed to see, if you look at the end and you see an area that is highlighted or has a square around it, that is what I expected to see. I got to tell you, I expected to see the 3.5% now. You see the MMD where it jumped up in the last couple months and now it's going down again? Our bond issue isn't going to be as bad as I thought, but we were borrowing at 1.5%, where now we're probably going to borrow, what, 2.5% or something like that. So it could be going back up too, but this is just showing us on average that where we are compared to where we were. And I will tell you that if I can tell you something here that you'll be interested in seeing. If you go to okay, if you go to the summary of financing plan, gross debt service, and you go to column 5, and you see the 23 million up top there, that's the debt we're looking at. You see that it's column 5 on the sign. It looks like this.
Yeah.
Yep. And it says 23 million, so fine, they list the projects. And if you go down there and you look at let's look at the second year, there's numbers in there. It's $1,172,000. Do you see that? That's on $23 million of debt. Guess how much of that is principal?
Sorry, which page are you?
What's that?
It's this,
Show
and
me
if you
that.
look at 1,172 right here, this number. If you look
You
at
guys see that number?
Yeah, if you look at that number, now he's going to tell us what it means.
Yeah, yes. Do you see that number? How much of that? That's the debt service that we're going to have to pay for that year. How much of that do you think is is principal? What do you think? How much is principal? It's like your mortgage.
2 million.
No, it's 1.172. It can't be above that.
700,000.
Anyone else?
I think it's higher than that.
658.
$5,000. The rest of it's interest.
Jeez, oh
It's the
man.
other way.
So when I say interest rates mean a lot when we borrow money, you can realize that they really mean a lot. So if we would get 1% or 100 basis points, as we say, down at a 23 million, that would drop that maybe $230,000 just for something like, well, probably more than that now that I think about it. I'd have to do the calculation, but when I say interest drives this, and that's why I say it was so easy when I was here that we could borrow money,
Yeah.
because that's what's changing everything. So I just want you to understand why we talk about interest rates and how important they are.
And what rate is that? At what interest rate?
This might be at 4% or something like that, I think, or 4.5%. So just so you understand, when you think about interest and you think it is interest. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. You guys got everything I talked about so far? You guys remember this slide, right? That's our budget. You see that? That's our budget. We keep going out. We're never going to change our debt service budget. We're always going to have it at 18.7 million. And that's good because at that point, everything's static, no tax increase, no capitalized interest, no use of fund balance. So we want to keep our debt service at that line or below. This is our existing debt service. Okay? Without us borrowing another dollar every year, that's what we have to pay each of those years. You understand? You've seen this before, so you're pretty comfortable with it. Okay. You're going to see the red is above the blue there. $367,000. Last year I had a $205,000, I think it was too. This was, we knew we were going to have this, and we have debt service money, about $2.7 million of debt service money that's going to fund this. So we're good, right? We're good. We don't have to capitalize interest. We don't have to use fund balance or anything. It's been prepared. I think Bill Stone knew this was coming, and he said, we need to put this over here to have it done. So we have this borrowing done. Now, the green is the new borrowing. So what I showed you on this page is now imprinted on my graph. So you're going to see now we owe $1.8 million rather than the 300 and some thousand when we do this bond issue. Okay? Well, what did I tell you? In our debt service fund, we have $2.7 million. So that's paid for. So again, although the variables behind on why we're doing this, because I didn't realize the plan, we can still afford it. You got it? You also know that if the interest rates were lower, that would drop a lot quickly. So now you get the understanding of why I talk about interest rates being so important. Is everyone good with this and understand it?
So far,
Okay. So, what I'm asking you to do, this week we got from PFM our marching orders to give them a lot of financial information. This is the first time I'm ever doing a bond issue before audited financial statements are finished. PFM tells me it's fine, we can do it. We're using the information that we have, the most current information we have now, to populate our preliminary official statement. You know, it's just like the prospectus and stuff like that you get if you're going to do other type of investing. The 9th, I'm presenting tonight. The 27th, we have to have the POS finished, and we'll be giving them our former audited financial statements and all the analysis I have about this year's finances. And we'll be giving that to the Standards and Poor's. March 9th, Zach Williard's going to be here from PFM to describe everything to you and do his due diligence with you. He's going to do a lot of the same stuff I've done. He probably isn't going to put the graphs together and all that, but he's going to explain each page and all that. You guys have been through that. The next thing at the March 16th board meeting, to approval to move forward with borrowing. They're going to give you what they call a limit resolution, I believe it is. And they're going to give you numbers to say, you're authorizing PFM to go out and the administration to go out and do a competitive internet borrowing. And that's the thing that I tell you I love, and you guys should all see it. But that gives the parameters and say, guys, if it meets these parameters, your interest rates, or I forget what the parameters are, the amount of interest and all that, if this all meets it, you have authorization to go and do the bond issue. Before, years ago, it used to be, we do the bond issue and we'd have a special meeting that night for you guys to sit around the table and sign all this stuff. And it's just done this way, it makes it more easy, and it does allow PFM and us to say, it's not a good time, we're going to put this off. Interest rates have spiked. Because when we scheduled everything and had everything, you know, everything was a turnkey, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, and it's done. We didn't have the flexibility to say, oh, interest rate spiked, we need to sit on it for a little bit. But now you're giving us the authorization to be able to do that, and it would be better done when it's best time.
And so the March bond issues for how many million?
Pardon me?
How big is the amount we're gonna borrow
23 million or so, something
for
like that.
March of this year? Is
This-
it on March, right?
Yeah.
Yes, March.
Because you said there's another one next year, right?
Yes, that's about 19.7 million.
Question. I have a question, Bob.
Yep.
It's okay. Are you going to ask us to give you a range
Of range,
for the interest rates, or?
what's going to happen is Zach is going to speak to you guys about that. And on the 9th, you should ask him specifically about how that's determined. And yes, you have total control of what you're willing to approve.
You're going to ask us.
I'm not.
Well, he's going to.
Yeah, he's going to ask, yes. He's going to explain it to you, and he'll tell you, you can do this, you can't do, you won't be able to do this. If you do this, you're not going to get the deal done. That's why he's going to tell you.
The chart, this guideline.
Yes, that is the guideline. That's only a 10-year though, but it gives you a strong indication of what interest rates are doing. It isn't a 30-year. It doesn't have our credit there. There's all kinds of things why it could deviate from that, but that shows you generally what interest rates are doing. Okay? The week of the 20th or 27th, and again, that could move, that's when the competitive internet auction is. And it's a very interesting thing, because it's just amazing when you watch this stuff. It's 15 minutes, and the first 10 minutes, there won't be a bid. Then there'll be one bid. And 2 minutes later, there'll be another bid. And then it goes nuts. And every time there's a new winning bid, it extends 2 more minutes. And then you start getting these bids that are getting so close to each other and all that. And then it's just awesome, because then one other guy, like, I think it's Benjamin Scattergood, comes in at the end, and they just jump over everybody after they see where everyone is. You got to watch it. It is really cool.
I'm gonna have to go now. Yeah, let me know.
So-
I'm in. Yeah, I'm bringing popcorn.
Anyway, late April or early May, we'll have settlement, and then the money will come in, and we'll have it. Okay? What I wanted to show you now is, going forward, I want to show you that the green is the 23 bond issue. The tan is the 24 bond issue. That's the 19.7 million. And guess what? There's no more money needed as long as interest rates stay where they are. Okay? So we're in good shape for that bond issue. I will also tell you that the 2016 A bond issue is available next year for refinancing if the rates come in. And the refinancing are almost $60 million. And generally, it's required that you save at least 2% of the funds that you are, or the bonds that you are refinancing. That's generally the rule. If they would choose, they could choose portions of this, but we have 60 million available, almost 60 million available. So if they would be able to refinance all these bonds, it would be saving about $1.2 million. And if you remember, what we try to do with the savings is make this go deeper so that you have more capacity, so future borrowings is never going to make above the blue line. So that's what we'd be trying to do. It may be tough because it depends on what maturities are occurring where and where the interest rates variances are the best. So we might not get it in all the spots we want it, but we'll try to do that. You guys understand all that?
Mhm.
Okay.
So should we,
Before I go on,
questions?
yes, any questions?
Just one thing you said, this 60 million that we could possibly refinance next year, at what rate are they, just for curiosity, at what rates are they now? Because we were borrowing this money before.
That's not the first time I've heard this question. No, it's a great
There was not
question.
an easy explanation.
And I have all kinds of information if you really want to get into bond financing. Okay. There is a bond yield, something that we're paying, and I brought this up because this is specific to this bond. So what happens is there is a coupon to the bond. So this bond, this $5,000 bond is going to mature, I'm going to tell you, it's going to mature in 2023, and this is from 2016, okay? And there's a coupon to it, and the coupon says every 6 months the district's going to pay you 2%. So for a $5,000 bond, every 6 months you're going to get 2%. So 5,000 times that's that's $100 a year, so you're going to get $50. Correct? I'm doing that right? 2%. Right. Anyway, but the interest rate when we sold these, we're not going to give you 2%. But the coupon says we're going to give you 2%. So what are we going to make you do? It's a $5,000 bond. We're going to make you pay more than $5,000 to buy that bond from us. Okay? So now it's called a premium bond. So when we get our proceeds in, although it's the par value, the value you're going to get back at the end is $5,000, we made you pay $6,000 for it because we're going to pay you too much interest over this period of time. So you had to pay us up front more money. So, and we talked about this a little, and so I pulled this out for tonight just so you and I could talk. I didn't know I'd get into this bond financing, but when we're going to refund these, we don't care what yield you're getting. We care about what the coupon value is. And think about it. Back when we sold this to you, it was 7 years before you're going to get paid off. Now, it's 1 year. So as you go out further on the yield curve, interest rates are higher. But now we're not comparing it to 7 years for you. Your yield now is 1 year. Well, it's 2024, I guess. So your yield's now 1 year. So even though interest rates went up, we're still only paying 1% in year one. So we're going to be able to refinance this because the coupon says 2%. So it's more complex than what you think, because then these coupons go up to 3%, and we're only giving 2.1% yield out at that time. So everyone's paying premiums to get these bonds. So it's a more complex thing than you think in calculating this, and it goes to higher brains than me even when you do the calculations, because I understand it, but that's where we are. Does everyone understand that part? So, so anyway, that's.
I think that was a good explanation. I gotta echo something that you said earlier. Talking about the summer projects, you said $3 million is not the number anymore. That's, you know, I've been talking about this for a long time. The $3 million was never enough to do all the projects that appeared necessary every summer. So I'm really glad to hear you say that. 3 million is not the number anymore, and we got to be thinking of a bigger number. And we have this fund of the 22.5 million that we need to maintain.
I don't think you need to maintain it at $22.5 million, but I do believe that it needs to continue to go up. You also have to decide what is your standard of your properties. What do you want it to be? How much money are you going to spend on the renovations of the next building and things like that? I've always contended, and because I was the guy that you guys say we're doing that project, and I'm the guy trying to figure out how we're going to do it, I always contended that maybe the board should have more control of the budget up front. Hey, we want you to do this renovation, we got $25 million for that, show me what you can do. And if you can't do it for 25 million, show me what we're gonna get for anything more. As opposed to coming in and, here's our budget, and now it's, board, raise the money. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's one thing that, I tried to share it vocally when I was the business manager, but I shared it. People knew that I thought that. So, by parting, goodbye.
I've always wondered, at a certain point, if it made sense to say, okay, we need to build a new Star Center. We need to renovate a building. And based on our current budget, this is what our business administrator recommends is a reasonable range for the cost for this project. And that'd be the starting point.
That is a superintendent, business manager's discussion with board leadership. And board leadership would have to get involved at what level they believe they should get involved in. Because it isn't an easy thing, because you know when I was here, I didn't spend. I don't want to spend. Well, I negotiated with you. You know I didn't want to spend.
I know.
So, yeah, that's all I should say about that. But,
I think it was enough.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I appreciate that.
so that's where I am with all of that. I have a few more slides. You guys good, or you want to have
I just
a
have a comment, Joe.
Okay.
Just to say that I'm happy that we're not digging into the 22 million we moved out of our fund balance into the capital reserve and using it on these new projects. We found a way to use the bond issue to do that. And so you're saying we're obviously taking 1.5 to do capital improvement projects or wherever that goes, and continue to feed it, but not necessarily to see it grow.
No,
You're just saying continue to replenish it.
yes. And maybe it is being able to put 3 or 4 million in there and keep dwindling down. If you have $5 million of projects and it's not 20, well, this year it's going to be down to 13 million, or it's going to be down, so then you're going to be 13, and if you use 5 next year and you put 3 in, it's going to be down to 11 million. It's just going to do that. That's what I believe would be appropriate. You guys good with that?
Right, because that was like a one-time,
Yes.
we had a long conversation about that being a one-time thing.
Yes.
We've had a couple of years, we've had some extra money. You've done a lot of gymnastics here to keep that borrowing power, but we're looking at this chart, it's pretty shallow for.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah, there's not a lot of borrowing power without making some radical changes.
Well, yeah, but we've got to be
And things cost more
maintaining
money.
as opposed to renovating to maybe a little bit more than we've thought about in the past. But that borrowing power is slim for a while.
Right.
So I can kind of piggyback on that stuff. My question is going to be, Bob, so obviously the blue, is that Bob Reinhardt's threshold? Is that Council Rock's threshold in terms of going north of that?
If you go north of that, you need to fund it some way. Tax increase, fund balance, one-time use, or some type of reserves that we have, debt service reserves, we have some of that. But it's not an open, it's not like it's being replenished or anything. Once you use it once in those.
Yeah, and I think there's been some conversations out there about things that we talked about years ago. You know, rock blocks, schedule changes. That all comes at a cost for infrastructure. There's only so much blue up there in the next couple of years, 5, 6 years out. When you talk about these grandiose ideas that we may have entertained, there's no room for additional buying power. So maintaining the buildings after we get done Richboro, to me, Justin, you and I have talked about this, we talked about it publicly, that's got to be maintained, and it sticks in my head all the time. kicking the can costs more money all the time.
Yeah.
So I like the direction of figuring out where we are in terms of what star hotel we are, what do we offer the amenities for our children, but that's a stark reminder that you may have an idea, how does it fit into the budget? Because we only have so much buying power. And that nip in the bud, the nip that goes up was Salt Limestone. When we went out and went above to go grab Salt Limestone and get those.
Well, we use capitalized interest, which means you borrow money to pay interest.
Correct.
When I was leaving, I was saying you had to delay that 2 years because I didn't want to do capitalized interest.
Well, that's neither here nor there.
I know, I'm just.
All I'm saying is that blue, I think.
I don't want to be political either.
No, I think, listen, that building was neglected for 50 years. Those kids need a new building up there. When you tell me boilers don't work, that's embarrassing. This board member voted for Salt Limestone because that's a disgrace.
I know, I don't
And I'm
want to
glad it's done. But what my question was,
Yeah.
is that I think the board needs to be careful when we talk about things. That blue line's right there. You go north of that, he's gonna go into seizures. Tony's walking, Tony's not even here yet.
We are north of it.
Well, for
next year,
right? Right. But once that room, I'm looking at a 5-year deal where we may have to keep this ship
Yeah,
focused on what we're doing in general.
right.
These other ideas that we've toyed with over the years, I don't know where you fit it into the budget without taxing at the full Act 1, and I would shudder to say the referendum.
And that's the referendum.
Yeah, that's problematic.
Yeah, you start every year with your 2 negotiated contracts, those costs, and right here, $19 million in debt service right now.
But the good thing is we have rested the contracts. We have built-in
Yep.
contracts with Durham. We have built-in contracts with EBM. Our contracts, whether we're here in 2 years or whatever, we're set. The board's or this district's set. What concerns me is that the buying power is limited over the next
Yeah,
couple of years.
absolutely.
So I just think that needs to be said.
If I could just add to the conversation that, we have a debt ceiling payment of 18 million, right, 18.7 million?
Yep.
Inflation goes up, sooner or later, we're gonna have to adjust the ceiling for inflation too.
No, this is not affected by inflation.
I'm saying
No,
that.
he's saying that the 18.6, you're gonna have to raise taxes to make it come up. Let's take it
What
over.
I'm trying to say is, everything else is going up, so is the cost of purchasing
Yep.
over time. So keeping this flat, it's almost like you're getting less money every year. With this money becomes less valuable. You know what I mean? There's more money supply, so inflation cuts it out. So this should probably go up. It's a constant budget, but sooner or later, we're gonna have to raise the debt ceiling. And here's one more thought to put out there. At this point, basically, $20 million, what does that cost per year? If you borrow $20 million today, what does that cost roughly? About
What,
1.7 million?
1.2 million, or wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so at some point, we're going to be having that discussion of increasing the debt ceiling, because in 10 years, we may have to borrow more money.
Even in 10 years, we'll be in the blue.
Right, but there'll be a short period of time, but all I'm saying is, I'm not saying we're raising taxes, we're raising
Right.
debt ceilings, but with inflation, everything, costs go up, so does our budget. So
Well,
our
I believe-
budget's going up, but our borrowing, say, I like the idea, but sooner or later, we might hit that ceiling, it might be 5 or 10 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, if inflation goes up, you have the Yogi Berra as where a nickel ain't worth a dollar.
But just so you know.
Okay. Can I go over these other quick ones? These are quick. This is just the approval of the programs and services budget for the IU and ours went up $376, but that needs to be approved this month. Okay? And then the board resolution passing for the 22.5 million, it had that it was effective for June of 2023, and it should have been June of 2022. So there's going to be a corrected resolution for you guys to pass. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. That was my fault. And to finish this, I got to tell you that The business office is a great team. Cheryl coming back was unbelievably wonderful. She's impacted me by helping me with things that I didn't have those type of things helping me. And with Tony in, you guys are gonna have a good team and just give him support because he's a very bright person, but he isn't a comedian. Like I am.
Can I just say,
Yeah,
Bob,
what's that?
I just want to say thank you. This is really good stuff.
I thought we were inviting them to dinner next month.
Gonna watch the bug.
Inviting the ship is really important. That's what I feel like you've done for us.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that, but you have a great team up there.
That's true.
And I wish it was the team I was working with. I mean, that's how good I think they are.
Well, thank you, Bob.
And we,
We're gonna have to teach him how to do animated presentations. You know?
he's not Kramer, like,
Well, some people have it, Bob.
that's, Andy's giving me all these nectarines.
It's okay.
And I still come back.
What else would you be doing?
There's so much. So, anyway.
AP reports.
So, no public comments or words? Yes.
Thank you, good meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
So, where's going to be that, by what you